One of the creatures comes walking from the woodline with their arms raised up over their head. They pulled out the shotguns and rifles. They started firing.
They used to call that the Kentucky Hello.
That's right. They probably walked right past the no trespassing sign at the end of the driveway.
You come walking out of the woods looking like a gremlin, you're going to get the Kentucky Hello.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Mondo Freako! Hey everybody, welcome to what we're calling the Mondo Freako Basement Tapes. The raw experimental conversations that actually sparked our show.
What you're about to hear is Rob and me riffing on all kinds of things. Bigfoot, alien visitations, shadow people, Mothman, whatever, before Mondo Freako was even a thing.
Think of it as a peek behind the curtain of where it all began.
Enjoy. The Kentucky Goblins, of all things. Last time we talked about dogmen or dog people. I don't know. We never did actually go down the path of gendering dogmen. But anyway, this time we're talking about the Kentucky Goblins. And as far as I know, they're totally asexual. So this is a really interesting case that has multiple names to it. It's also called the Hopkinsville encounter. It's also called the Kelly Green Men case. So it goes by many names, and we're going to talk about them as the Kentucky Goblins because it sounds like a sports team, possibly from your alma mater down there in Kentucky. I don't know.
That would be a good sports team.
I know because I knew people who went to school there, but there's a place called Murray State. It's in Murray, Kentucky, of all places. And their mascot is the Racers. It's not like Big Ten or any of that kind of stuff. They're just a regular old school. But Murray Racers, I thought, was really good. So maybe there's a community college in Kentucky called the Goblins. We'll have to look that up. Here in St. Louis, there's a private university called St. Louis University, and their mascot is the Billiken, which is a goblin-like creature.
Really?
Yeah, the Billikens. It's like a little gremlin, goblin-y kind of weird looking thing. But they're not, any kind of big university like other ones. I don't even know which ones. I don't even follow college sports. I just follow mascots, apparently.
You got all the flags up and you just stare at the mascot.
That's right. There's a movie called Mascots. I have not watched it, but now I feel like I should after all this. So what have you got for us, Rob, on the Kentucky Goblins case?
Kentucky Goblins. You'd mentioned that they were called the Kelly Goblins. That's because the other town that their farm was near was actually called Kelly. So there's two towns, Hopkinsville and Kelly.
I thought their last name was Kelly for some reason.
There's two families involved, the Suttons and the Taylors. Those are the primary families that were involved.
Oh, there you go. Mm-hmm. Look at that. Mm-hmm.
So we can call them the Kelly Goblins, the Hopkinsville Goblins, the Kentucky Goblins. You can have a hob in there if you want to. We could call them Billikens if you want to keep on theme.
I think that we might get sued. It's a very wealthy university in St. Louis.
Isn't there a Milligan? I don't know.
There is a Milligan University in Decatur, where I'm from.
Is their mascot the Billikens?
Big Blue. I don't know what that refers to.
Maybe we don't want to know. Have you seen a picture of their mascot?
I don't remember. I lived there for quite a long time. Grew up there and everything. And actually, my wife was going to that university when we met. But I don't remember what. I think it's just like a guy wearing blue, as far as I know.
Huh. Well, he's got the proper name then. If that's
I'll have to look it up.
Big?
He seemed big to me. Now you got me thinking I should look it up.
Because the Milliken Billikens would be a lot of fun to say.
Let's see what it says here.
Pelicans?
The Pelicans? No. Private college in Decatur. Oh, okay. It's got this. He looks like a monster. He's called Big Blue. Now, this was definitely not the mascot whenever I was there.
Is he goblin-esque?
No, he's more like Bigfoot-esque.
Okay.
But he's on all fours. He looks very kind of primate, ape-like, but he's got large teeth and red eyes.
Oh.
And it's called Big Blue. But that incarnation was definitely not around when I was. I would have remembered that and locked that into my head. Now, it looks like an older version of Big Blue was a bird-like creature, but now they've got the cooler
Shapeshifter, maybe?
Yeah, yeah, the Milliken Skinwalkers. No, it looks like they just changed it to make it look cooler than like a big bird. So he looked kind of like a bit of a diseased bluebird. But now he looks like a nice big monster, which is even better.
Maybe he was a diseased phoenix, and then he arose from the ashes and became
definitely not a phoenix. I mean, he literally looks like a Muppet reject in this picture. It's like Jim Henson probably said, "Who made this? They're fired," and threw the costume and the person right out the door.
And they probably got it on sale.
That could be. But yeah, the new one, if they got a suit of this would be pretty good.
I'm glad to see that some areas of our country are making forward progress. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's definitely very cryptid looking. And they call him Big Blue. So I was right with at least the name.
You might have been inspired by Bigfoot. Foot was taken, and so they went with Big Blue instead.
Mm-hmm. This may be a whole nother show. We probably should get back to goblins.
We should get back to the Kentucky, Kelly, and/or Hopkinsville goblins. So the whole thing starts because Billy Ray Taylor, who is apparently a family friend, I think, of the Suttons, he sees a silvery object shooting through the sky while he's at the Suttons' farm. That's how the whole thing starts. And then he goes back to the farmhouse, right? And the Suttons are there, including Lucky. Lucky's one of the Suttons. Apparently, Billy Ray's a bit of a jokester of sorts. No one believed him, right? But they soon came to believe him, because pretty soon their little farmhouse was what appeared to be under attack is probably a strong word.
Mm-hmm.
But they were being approached by some interesting looking creatures. How are they described in the information that you've...
Well, they have a drawing here, and they look kind of like gremlins. Like if you were to think about a gremlins have like bigger ears, right?
Yep.
And big head, and they show a comparison. They're about half the size of an average person, so about 2.5 to 3 feet tall. And their arms are really long. They hang down all the way down to their ankles, and they're real thin, yeah. Mm-hmm. And their eyeballs, though, are on the sides of their head almost.
Glowing gold eyeballs.
Yeah. You know, their bodies are somewhat proportional to their diminutive stature, other than their really long legs and their weird ass head.
The big pointy ears, yeah.
Yeah, the ears.
Totally normal outside of that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Could be possibly a child with some kind of large tubes on his arms and wearing a bucket. You know how you just run around and yeah.
Remember the old days, the Christmas wrapping tubes? They were a little bit thicker, a little bigger. You could actually fit your arm in them.
Yeah, the old ones you could, and then you could be like a robot. And well, we used to beat each other with them. The fun part was to get to the tube, and then your mom would give it to you or whatever, and then you would stick it on your hand like a weapon, and then you would run around and hit everybody. Yep.
Or you stick behind them and kind of go through the tube in their ear.
Yeah. That's good too.
Oh, those were the days when the tubes were large.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not very good at wrapping things, but I will give it a try. And I think my wife was wrapping, though, actually, presents for our kids. And she got to the end, and I was so hoping to get the tube. You know what? No tube.
Is it just that sort of rounded off piece of brown paper, kind of the stiff paper, no tube at all?
Yeah, no tube at all. I was like, why in the world do they even bother? I mean, it has no life other than being wrapping paper, which in the sense, it has no life. It's basically made to be ripped up and thrown away.
Yeah. It does make some animals happy. I knew a family who had a husky dog, and when they were done unwrapping gifts, they would give the wrapping paper to the dog, who would just shred it. He would go nuts. He loved doing it so much.
So he ripped it even more.
Even more. He just would tear it totally apart. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that wrapping paper also got to travel through the digestive tract of a husky.
I'm not sure they let him eat too much of it, but they'd have to clean that up afterwards.
You know it all. Something went through. Whenever you
maybe the first time or two, right before they started watching so closely.
Extra usage there.
Speaking of arms, and this is where I hesitated to say that the farmhouse was under attack, is because what they described from the witnesses who were supposedly there was one of the creatures comes walking from the woodline with their arms raised up over their head. And some say maybe they were just trying to say, hey, we're not trying to cause any trouble here. We're just here to have a conversation. But they pulled out the guns. They pulled out the shotguns and rifles, and they were having none of it. They started firing at these creatures.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they used to call that the Kentucky Hello.
Kentucky Hello. That's right. They probably walked right past the no trespassing sign at the end of the driveway.
You come walking out of the woods looking like a gremlin, you're going to get the Kentucky Hello. We said the date. So I have a date of August 21st, 1955, which I think is interesting.
Because
it's so long ago now. And this is not something that happened yesterday, and it's
still talked about to this day.
Still talked about to this day, but also everything now is divided into pre-internet, pre-social media. Right. So you can't look at this case the same as the Las Vegas case that just happened less than a year ago or so, where the people said this thing landed in their backyard and these things were running around, because that's after the internet and after social media. And so, because everybody's, even us, the reason we're talking about the Kentucky Goblins is because we want somebody to listen to it. These people in 55, who are they spoofing? What's the deal?
Well, Lucky was a bit of a jokester, but no, I don't think they would have invented a story quite like this. That's actually one of the debunking theories. Some people say, well, they just did it to try to get some attention or make some extra money, but I don't buy that. This isn't unlike the Mothman scenario where there's no real reason for the folks involved to, as you are implying, go out and communicate widely about this, because all they've got is downside for the most part.
Right, exactly. That's the thing. That's all downside. I mean, I don't know that in Hopkinsville in 1955, there was easy monetization for little green men. I'm pretty sure there wasn't. So it makes you wonder. And they had the sheriff come out. They had all kinds of people come out.
They did. The sheriff did come out. And there's a couple of folks in law enforcement who actually testified about the believability of the witnesses based on some of the things that they saw when they came into the police station. But it's interesting when you mentioned their little green creatures. One of the details about this, when I did my extensive pre-episode research, Bob, was the fact that they're silver. They're described as silvery as opposed to green. So green was kind of assigned to them a little bit afterwards. But no, they were actually silvery colored, according to the folks who were there at the farmhouse.
Really? Okay. Now that's a detail that I did not pick up, other than the fact that I got the name wrong. A detail I didn't pick up on.
That's why I'm here. That's why I do the extensive research that I do.
That's good.
So the matriarch of the Sutton family, Glennie, I believe was her name, she described them as a gas can with a small head on top and long arms and skinny legs or something like that. So silvery creatures. I know the sketch that you're probably looking at because I saw that around a lot on the internet. I think we sort of made it a little bit more, I won't say humanoid because they're not really humanoid, but more animal-like maybe than they would have described it.
I'm thinking the old style gas cans from that time period were kind of a cylinder, right, with a bottom.
Sort of the rounded top. And
then the top was, it's not like the plastic ones we have now. These all at the time were metal, and they usually were cylindrical with something slapped on the top and bottom.
And that's making me think, especially when you hear some of the details about how the bullets apparently did not have effect on them. One of the descriptions was when they shot one of them, it kind of pinballed backwards and spun around, but was not actually harmed. So part of me thinks if we're going to go into the idea of thinking back to the silvery object that streaked across the sky that Billy Ray saw, maybe these are some sort of a space suit that the folks, if they did come out of that supposed potential crashing craft are wearing, and we don't even know what they look like when they take their outfits off.
Or, and this is a possibility, they are robots.
As AI advances and we start getting closer to actually having robots that can function and do things, if you were going to explore new worlds, wouldn't you send a robot as opposed to going on your own?
Yeah, and the silvery nature, obviously metallic nature, the long arms make it easy for it to maneuver, right?
They could
And
take a piece of fruit, they could reach down to the ground swiftly.
And if we look at, I'm a butcher the name, but Pascagoula, Mississippi abduction case with those two guys in the early 70s who were fishing and got abducted. They thought their visitors were not human, they were robots. And then that would also explain the whole can't shoot them. They could easily be made of titanium or some other element that we're not as familiar with and be bulletproof.
But yeah, exactly. That does explain a lot. Perhaps why their eyes are glowing, right? They got some sort of battery power because my eyes don't glow.
Well, I would assume not. You never know.
Sometimes it'd be handy. I forget
maybe
when I walk my dog.
In your youth, you were glowing.
I had a shiny coat and glowing eyes.
You talk about these poor people. Basically, they had a gunfight with these creatures or robots or whatever. And in 1955, even today, even though we are a gun society in the United States, I would say, still, you're not going to just start using all this ammunition for no reason. I mean, it costs money, and it cost money back then. And from what I could glean from my rather cursory examination of everything is these people didn't necessarily want to just keep throwing money into the woods.
No, they were not necessarily a wealthy family. Based on my information as well. And then you say gun battle. I'm going to defend the little creatures a little bit. They seemed like maybe they just wanted to come in. Maybe they had to use the bathroom.
That's true. They didn't shoot back at them, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
It was one-sided gun battle.
Now, they certainly didn't get the hint, right? They kept coming when they were firing at them.
Well, if they've explored other planets, potentially they've been shot at many times.
Right. This could be part of their training. When you first arrive, more than likely, the residents are going to have some sort of ammunition fired
or
at
they
you.
get things thrown at you. I mean, maybe they mostly have encountered monkeys. And they just assumed it was poop.
They've got an interesting way to fire their poop. That's what's going through the robot heads.
The robots are going, this poop is really traveling.
Okay.
The velocity of this poop is much greater than the last people.
They're taking all these readings. All this stuff's going back to the mothership.
These must be a bunch of metal eaters because this poop is rock hard.
It's got to smell like gunpowder. What are they eating?
Because what do you want to call it? Maybe conceited? Is that the word? We assume the creatures have any clue how to do anything in our society, like put up their hands or, well, they jumped on top of the house, but maybe that's how they enter their houses. We don't know.
They think the chimney is the door.
Right.
So they're trying to get in. In fact, one of them reached down and grabbed someone by the hat or hair. That was one of the details. Someone went out on the porch and there was one up on the roof. Another interesting detail is that they didn't necessarily see more than one or two of these at any given time. But yet it felt like there was a lot of them out there. So perhaps these things were just really swiftly moving to give the impression of many. Maybe it's just a couple. Maybe it's a couple of robots.
Right. Well, if they're robots, maybe they can move a lot faster. Or teleportation abilities, perhaps, or some other type of technology that allows them to move a lot faster than humans can. Well, apparently, except for putting their hands down the chimney or whatever. But
maybe their arms are retractable and maybe they extend. Remember the robot from Lost in Space?
Right. Yeah. The other problem, he didn't have any legs, and so they always had to be in a flat surface.
That's true.
I don't know if they sent down a bulldozer ahead of time to keep it so that he can move around.
that kept them close to the ship. Because if the ship could land,
danger. But yeah, these guys seem much more maneuverable with their long arms and short legs and
advanced, right?
Big noggins. Yeah.
If we were to build the Lost in Space, I bet you if they did a new movie with Lost in Space, that the robot would be a lot more mobile.
Oh, they did. It was on Netflix a few years ago, and he was much more maneuverable. Yeah, the one from the original show was very clunky.
Very clunky. Yeah, kind of bumbling. We happened to watch an episode of that, which I don't recommend because it was not nearly as good as I recall it when I was a kid.
Just the music.
I told my kid before because they'd never heard it. I'm like, hey, check out this theme song. You're really going to like this. And I'm like, no, it's not that good either. And so it was generally very disappointing. Not how I remembered it. So they're firing at these creatures. And they make a run for it. They're so freaked out, they run out to their pickup trucks. Bob, they've got pickup trucks. I made sure I knew what kind of vehicle that they were.
Of course they did.
Yeah,
everybody has one.
I guess that's true. They're on a farm, and they go scooting off to the police department in Hopkinsville, and the police station in Hopkinsville. And they say, this is what's going on. And they're all freaked out. And the police say, whoa, we better get back there and see what the heck's going on. About a half hour, 45 minutes later, the police arrive. There's military police from Fort Campbell nearby, and a photographer arrives at the Sutton farmhouse to investigate. But the only evidence remaining, despite what the witnesses are saying, are the actual shotgun shells. Everything else appears to be gone, with one exception. Well, I shouldn't say one, but an exception that stuck out to me is some of the folks that were there the first time, they saw some sort of a mark or an indentation or I wrote this down, I forgot the word that they used, but essentially it looked like something was in the grass. It appeared to shimmer at a certain angle from a distance. Like there's a shimmeriness to this substance that was on the ground. But when they got close to it, I guess the shimmeriness sort of went away. And then later on, we'll hear they actually came back the following day, and that was then gone as well. So was that maybe where, I don't know, maybe they jumped out of the spaceship and landed there and left a little robot slime on the ground that dried up?
I was going to say he took a leak.
Good. Oh, he could have died. So there goes my theory about them having to use the bathroom. But yeah, it could be goblin pee.
Yeah, he'd be like, I'll be right with you guys. I'm right behind you.
Good.
He's standing there relieving himself, and then pew 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 pew. And, oh my God, what's going on?
You know what? I forgot to let you know about. We got another quiz for you here about the goblins.
Oh, sure.
You want to go through the quiz?
Sorry.
So they start easy, and we've covered some of these. So this is going to be a test of your memory.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we kind of riffed a lunch there.
We did. I forgot that I had the quiz all queued up for you. But the year, what's the year? You've already said this. We know.
1955, yeah.
Exactly. Now, this one you wouldn't have gotten without me doing a little bit of the info correctedness over here. But between which two Kentucky towns was the Sutton farm located?
You said Hopkinsville and Kelly.
Exactly.
But yeah, I would have got that. I knew Hopkinsville, but I wouldn't have got the other one.
This we just talked about. What town did they flee to seek help from law enforcement?
Hopkinsville?
Exactly. And what type of firearms did the residents use to attempt to defend themselves from the creatures?
Well, you said shotguns.
They also apparently use rifles, too.
Oh, okay.
Not a big gun guy, but I guess.
Would be a different shell, that's for sure.
Right. Isn't a shotgun a rifle, or is it?
No.
Okay.
No, I would say people would say a shotgun is not a rifle.
You use shot instead of a bullet.
Right, exactly. You're using, although you can use a slug in a shotgun for certain things, but a shotgun generally is a larger barrel diameter.
Okay.
And it usually has shot rather than having one lead bullet.
Okay.
But I think that's the only differential. But you think of it as a long barrel, then you think of a rifle as opposed to a short barrel. But I know there are pistol style shotguns.
Are there? Now there are double barrel shotguns. I've heard that. Are there double barrel rifles?
Yes. Yeah, you can have a double barrel rifle.
So
but those are less
you're
common.
Teaching me things.
Well, I'm not a big gun guy either. I happen to grow up in an area where it's prevalent.
A lot of shotguns.
A lot of everything.
A lot of everything.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I've probably had the pleasure of shooting them. I don't know. Over time, it's not been my hobby, but you know, when somebody's shooting a gun and you're there, you're like, hey, can I shoot that gun? Sure.
Okay, we're into medium difficulty on your quiz. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm
Okay.
ready.
Now, this is going to require a little bit of recall as well, but what was the last name of the family who lived in the farmhouse?
Taylor. I would say it was Taylor.
No, those are the Suttons that lived there.
Oh, the Suttons. I knew it was Sutton and Taylor.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Taylors were visiting. It was Billy
Shot too many
Ray
guns.
and his wife. I don't have the name of Billy Ray's wife, but she was there too, although she didn't come up in the stories that I heard.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know about this one already. What did Billy Ray initially see in the sky before the creatures appeared?
He saw some kind of light or arc in the sky. Some kind of thing. Yeah.
Silvery round metallic object.
Yeah.
Streaking across the sky.
Sputnik was coming down.
Could have been Sputnik. Okay, now we're heading into new territory and we're in the medium difficulty section. Who saw the creatures once again after the investigators left that first night?
I don't know, but I'm going to say Lucky.
No, it was
Not
someone else
Lucky.
you've heard about. Glennie, the matriarch of the family.
Glennie.
Yep.
Well, see, now that doesn't jive. I mean, unless Glennie's in on it, then Lucky is not going to get Glennie to say, yeah, I saw him again.
Yeah, I don't think so. And it was at her bedroom window screen with its claw-like hand. That's what Glennie saw, yeah. So let's head back to the timeline here a little bit. The investigators leave, then Glennie sees the creature at her bedroom window, and the police continue with their investigation, and they interview witnesses and neighbors, but no further evidence. I guess that's where things sort of wrap up outside of the media attention. So now we can head back to the quiz. Obviously, a lot of people don't believe their story. How dare they?
Right, yeah.
But there is a specific type of bird that folks who are attempt to debunk this, actually one paranormal investigator as well who looked into this, claimed that this specific type of bird was responsible for what the witnesses experienced. Do you know what that bird was?
They probably said it was an owl, is my guess.
It was. What type of owl? Do you have any? I mean, I think you get credit for this question.
A barred owl, something like that.
A great horned owl.
A great horned owl. Okay, I just going for a common owl. So
yeah. Whereas now we're going to try to debunk the debunkers. Well, owls are not nearly as tall as they say the creatures were. The creatures, according to the witnesses, were over 3 feet tall.
Yeah.
In addition, the eyes of owls tend to not glow.
Unless you shine a light into them, and then they'll glow.
I guess that's true, yeah. Which they were not doing, as far as I know. And nor do owls rattle when shot at, generally.
Right. And they don't have arms.
They do not have long, emaciated arms.
Or look silvery. I mean, unless somebody went out and dressed up a bunch of owls in silver suits. I mean, I don't know why you would do that, but...
No, they probably had a lot of time on their hands.
Yeah.
Especially back then in 55, without the internet.
Have you ever been close to an owl? I don't think they really want to put on a silver suit.
I'm a fan of owls. I've not been close to one. I have seen close-up pictures and videos of owls. They've got a bit of an attitude to them, based on what I could tell, just from their facial expression.
I don't think they don't like to be messed with. Yeah. As far as I can tell. You don't go petting no owl. That's what I say.
I tend not to mess with anybody who can turn their head almost in a full circle.
Spit up bones.
That's one of my rules of thumb. So yeah, I won't mess with any owls.
You know, owls make pellets because they don't digest the bones, and they spit them back up in these little pellet-looking things.
Do they spit them up, or do they pass them through the other end?
No, I believe they kind of choke them back out. Yeah,
like a hairball, like a
hairball. Yeah,
bone ball, a bone ball.
A bone ball, exactly. Because if it went through your digestion system, I would assume that some of it would dissolve. And so I do believe they kind of cough them back up.
Cough up a bone ball. That's where the expression cough up a bone ball comes from, probably.
I've never heard that.
Oh, that must be a California thing.
Never heard that one. Sorry.
So I did the last of the medium difficulty questions. How did the families I suppose this would just be the families of the Suttons because they're the permanent residents of the farmhouse, tried to detour the crowds of curious visitors who showed up after the incident.
I'm assuming they shot at him like they shot at the thing.
They did not give them the Kentucky welcome. They put so this is getting back to some of our early theories. They apparently had to install the no trespassing signs.
Oh.
But then they also tried, and this kind of backfired on them because it caused some of the debunking to flare up. They started charging admission because folks were just sort of tromping through their property, taking pictures because they heard about the story, and they're driving up on the driveway, and they probably don't even have pickup trucks, and they're driving up on their front driveway.
All these city people.
All the city people coming out taking pictures. I mean, back then they had the flash bulbs that made that big flash and the boosh sound, right? That probably was
exactly. Yeah.
Do they have this?
That'd be annoying. That'd be annoying.
It really would. All times of day, people coming in to tromp around your farmhouse looking for signs of silvery goblins.
Yeah, I would agree.
This was going to be a hard question, but now it might be easy because we've covered this a little bit. But what was interesting about the substance the police found in the grass on the farm when they went out to investigate?
Well, you said it was shimmery.
Yeah, it had a sheen to it when viewed from a specific angle.
Well, gasoline has a sheen to it when...
Oh, yeah. Well, that might do it, yeah.
Especially if you've ever been on a lake or gone fishing on a boat or whatever, up by the dock, you always see that sheen on the water because they're spilling gas and oil and whatnot in the water. And so it really has a weird iridescent look to it, but not at every angle. So I think that could be an explanation there. Maybe they peed gasoline.
Well, if they've got bodies shaped like gas cans, I think this is, I think that they could just be anthropomorphized gas cans.
Yeah. Yeah, there was like a video game called Cuphead, if you remember that. Gas can head.
Gas can body.
Gas can body, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, there you go. Cuphead's probably a little more...
It rolls off the tongue.
It does. Yeah. It does. Okay, so we're down to the last question. This is the hardest, and we have not covered this yet. So if you get this right, you win the quiz.
Okay. All or nothing.
All or nothing. Besides owls, what is another theory presented by folks who have looked at the evidence after the fact to explain what the family saw?
Oh, boy. Besides an owl, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Monkeys?
You won the quiz. Apparently, there was some traveling circus that broke down.
That's always the case. Circus.
You know, back in those days, the circus transportation vehicles were not as reliable as they are today, and so they were always breaking down. And apparently, some escaped monkeys from a traveling circus was one of the theories as to what Glennie, Billy Ray, and Lucky all saw that night.
It's always the monkeys, isn't it? They always blame the monkeys.
They did not mention whether the monkeys were ever dressed in silver suits.
Much easier to dress a monkey in a silver suit than an owl, I would say.
That's where that expression comes from.
Well, they did it for Lancelot Link, so I'm assuming they could do it for a circus.
Yeah, I would. Anybody listening, do not go back and look up episodes of Lancelot Link. We're talking about Lost in Space being a waste of time.
Lance Link, secret chimp.
Yeah, that didn't even spark my interest as a kid. You like that one?
Oh yeah, come on. Who doesn't love monkeys dancing around?
I guess I gravitated towards sort of superhero type characters, and Lance Link wasn't doing it for me.
I remember this wasn't mine, I'm sure, because Lance Link is a little before my time, just a bit. But we had a Lance Link comic books.
Oh, living the high life.
Yeah, big collection of comic books that were basically hand-me-downs from a lot of older relatives. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of them there's a couple of Lancelot Link in there. I remember the song more than I remember anything because that was a great song. Lance Link, Secret Chimp was the name of the show, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there was, they had a band on there called The Missing Link. I believe it was the name of the band.
Yeah.
And they were, monkeys. Dressed up monkeys.
Now, that was a good TV show. You should go back and watch The Monkeys. Now, the monkeys who are not monkeys, that was a good one.
I watched all those as well, but
highly recommend.
Oh my
More
gosh,
good.
we're spinning everywhere. Anything else on the Kentucky Goblins here before we finish up?
Well, the last is there's a Netflix series, Hellier. Bob, I think we've talked about this briefly, but there was some individual, he was a doctor, he was located in Kentucky, and apparently he sent some sort of semi-mysterious emails to a paranormal investigator implying that he believed his house was under siege by some sort of goblin-like creature. Kind of an interesting series, but the net of it is it was similar enough, and the location was close enough to the original 1955 Kentucky Goblins story that some speculated that perhaps these silver-skinned, skinny-armed creatures crash landed on Earth and took up residence in some of the local caves in Kentucky and resurfaced, what is this, 20 years ago now-ish, and started trying to prank this one doctor and his family.
Yeah, those crazy alien pranksters.
Well, if you're living underground for what, that'd be like 40, maybe 50 years. I mean, you're going to get a little bit stir crazy, I'm guessing.
Little bit, maybe.
They got to go out and let their long pointy ears see the light of day once in a while.
Right.
But there's a lot of caverns and caves down under Kentucky.
Yeah.
That's part of
was it Bell Witch? It's in Kentucky. It's a cave.
Okay. When I lived in West Virginia, I know we went down there to see the cave once.
Yeah. Well, I think we've solved this.
We have once again solved it. We figured it out.
The Kentucky Goblins, all done. I can't believe you listened to this. It's been the Mondo Freako Basement Tapes. If you've enjoyed this glimpse into the origins, you're going to really want to check out the regular show. All kinds of weird topics, but maybe a little more polished.
You can find Mondo Freako on all major podcatchers and social media platforms.
See you next show.
You freak.
And he would eat people or what have you. Yeah,
he would eat their heads.
If you do it enough, you can actually jiggle your brain enough to hurt it.
As a kid, I used to cry at fire engines. I'm rapidly trying to find my timeline on my computer screen, and now I've got it in front of me again. Okay. Was it smooth? Could you tell that I was searching frantically for something?
No, I didn't. No, I was.
It didn't sound very smooth to me.